Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ken Kirschenbaum. This is one of our webinars in the Kirschenbaum and Kirschenbaum 2022 webinar series. And it's going to be a quick one today. And this is dealing with the disclaimer notice that we offer as a form, and also just very briefly discuss the concierge program that's available to alarm companies. We get a lot of questions with the disclaimer notice, although I recommend it all the time with the articles and the order form recommends it. We do get a lot of orders come in for the residential, particularly for the residential all-in-one and the commercial all-in-one, and they do not include the disclaimer notice as part of the order. And I always write to them with my own disclaimer, letting them know that they should be requesting the disclaimer notice as well. And they, oh, I see my picture wasn't on. Sorry. That I tell them that they need to get the disclaimer notice, and almost, matter of fact, every time when I do that, they get the disclaimer notice. But we sometimes get questions, why should I get the disclaimer notice? What's it for? Eileen, our contract administrator, gives a much more thorough answer than I do. As a matter of fact, less than 2 weeks ago, I got a request. What is this disclaimer notice for? And my answer was, it covers your butt. That was it. And they just ordered it, and that was the end of it. I think there was something in between that, but anyway, the answer is you just get it and use it, and you're going to find out why during this webinar very quickly. Okay, so let's first of all see, what does this thing look like? Well, it looks like this, although you can't really read it because it's not. This one isn't in English, I don't think. But I'm going to tell you what's in it so you understand what's in it and why you should use it. First, let me tell you, where did it come from? Why did we decide to use this form? This is not a contract. This is an acknowledgement by the customer that certain things happened at the time or prior to the execution of the formal alarm contract. So before that residential commercial all-in-one is signed, before the residential all-in-one is signed, you're going to have the disclaimer notice. Now, even on the fire all-in-one, you can use it because the disclaimer notice can be used for a takeover situation, and we get a lot of calls about that. How do I take over this system and protect myself contractually? So let me first tell you where this thing come from. Why did I create it? Well, I'll tell you why. We had a lawsuit, must have been 15 years ago or so, around there, from a residential customer who had signed a properly drafted residential alarm contract with all the protective provisions in it. And the claim made by this homeowner was that the alarm company never told them that they could have a radio at their location, that they could have backup radio. Now, the contract didn't mention anything about backup radio. The contract did have in it what's familiar in alarm contracts, all of K&K's contracts for sure, that the alarm company has offered additional and more sophisticated equipment, and the subscriber has declined that equipment. That's stuck in the contract. Sometimes customers take it out, by the way, and my answer is, sometimes I let it go, but my answer very often is, well, didn't you tell them there's more stuff available? And sometimes the alarm company may say, I don't know, but other times they'll say, yeah, sure we did. And they didn't want it. So what's important here is that That's in the contract. So here's what happened. So this homeowner has a burglary loss, and which I think, by the way, just as an aside, was such baloney. It was unbelievable. I think when you saw the list of things that they claimed had been taken from their house, it would have taken a moving company 2 days to empty this house out. And the fact was that the homeowner actually came home and saw the burglars running out the back door. But despite that, they managed to take every electronic, everything of value, everything right down to a toothbrush out of that house, to the tune of $80,000 worth of content in that house that they were demanding. So that was their demand. They might have been suing for actually more than that. The claim was ridiculously inflated, and it was the homeowner, by the way, that was suing, not an insurance company, which was odd. So it was such a nonsense claim they didn't even bother turning it into their insurance company. But here's the claim: they claim that the alarm company never told them about a radio never told them about radio backup, and they found out that radio backup was available in this part of town where they lived, and it was available. And the alarm company did offer radio backup. The homeowner claims they never discussed it. The salesman says they did discuss it. Wasn't in the contract. So the subscriber makes the claim that they were fraudulently induced when they entered into this contract because they were not advised of radio backup. Now, why was radio backup so central in this issue? Because before the burglars entered the house, they cut the telephone line. And apparently there was also no line seizure, or not line seizure, the communication back and forth. There was no notification of a failure of the system at that point. So that, of course, made a radio backup important because the telephone line had been cut and there was no radio backup. So they start this lawsuit. It had all the familiar protective provisions, exculpatory clause, limitation liability clause, whatever. It gets before a horrible judge that just could not care about what the law was. And he goes, I don't know if I'm going to enforce this exculpatory clause, this limitation liability clause. Maybe these people were defrauded. You know, they're claiming it was never offered, wasn't discussed. There's nothing in this contract that mentions the word radio. So I'll tell you why I never forgot this, because I'm sitting across. He had me in his chambers, and I'm sitting across the desk from him, and he goes to me, you know, I don't think this exculpatory clause is even enforceable. And I looked at him and I said, well, I do think it is enforceable. And his response to that was, I think I'm going to hold you in contempt of court. And I just looked at him and I said, really? Okay. Are we done yet? And that was it. But so we were stuck with this judge. We weren't getting this case away. I told the carrier that was defending the alarm company, I said, this judge may very well rule against us. We're going to have to take this up on appeal. This could be a bad case. And I didn't want to risk it again, And so I wound up settling that case. The carrier wanted to, because the legal fees were just mounting on this case, and there was certainly going to have to be an appeal, or definitely a trial, one or the other. We wound up settling for $30,000 or something, maybe $40,000. I don't really remember. But as a result of that case, I decided, you know what? If we would have had something in writing from the customer that emphasizing that radio had been offered, or other equipment offered, or other protection offered, I think that this judge would have been very hard pressed to claim that they had been deceived into entering into the alarm contract. So I came up with a disclaimer notice. It's an acknowledgement by the customer. What's the customer acknowledging? The undersigned, which is the customer, acknowledges that a representative of the alarm company, your name would be in this form, has explained additional equipment, systems, and protections that may be available from the alarm company for additional charges, and the undersigned has had sufficient opportunity to consider the additional services that may be available and has decided not to request or contract for such additional services, systems, or protection. The additional equipment, systems, and protection discussed include, but was not limited to, the following. Now you can see on your screen there, up on the top, after the first paragraph, there's a whole list of things, and everywhere from hardwired systems, wireless systems, additional contacts, motion, audio, video, guard response, stationary guards, UL, ETL, other approved installations, sprinkler, fire, electrical surge, data storage, access control, fire, smoke, carbon monoxide, heat, temperature, roof, attic, wall, exterior protection, independent secondary systems, a second system on top of the first, video monitoring, cellular radio backup, latest technology, whatever that is, dedicated telephone line communication. That's just a partial list of what this customer is saying was discussed, and they understand they're not getting it. Now, if your system happens to include any of these things, that's fine. You don't have to cross it out. It's fine leaving it there. This is simply an acknowledgement that this was discussed. It was declined. If it's in your contract, obviously that's going to override this note, this acknowledgement by the customer. Now, we've never had a case after that where we've had to pull out the disclaimer notice before a judge and on a defense case and say, hey, they're claiming they didn't understand this or that, which, by the way, is not really a defense anyway, or that they didn't have time to read the contract, or they didn't read the contract. That's also not a proper defense. So we haven't had to pull this out for that purpose. I'll tell you where we have used it. We have used it when customers claim that they hadn't signed the contract at all, and that the signature on it in particular is not theirs. And then we compare it to the signature on the disclaimer notice, and we have used it for that purpose. But I'm going to tell you what I think has developed with this form, because and I'm going to show you what else is in it. It's developed as a important sales tool that your sales personnel should be using. Why? Because it's forcing the customer to acknowledge that they understand that there's more and better equipment and protection available to them. So that is an important issue when you're trying to sell a system, when especially they're trying to short circuit certain things. Now, a lot of this can also go in the contract. In your schedule of equipment and services, when you're describing what you're doing, you should put in there what you're not doing, if you should be doing it. For example, not wiring a back door, not wiring second floor windows in residence, not wiring certain areas of protection whether commercial or residential. If you know you should be doing it, you should put it in. Say, I offered it, they don't want it, and that's in your contract. It'll also be covered by this disclaimer notice, which is the point of this disclaimer notice altogether, that it's a duplicate secondary form that we're going to have available to us. So anything that should be there should be noted in the contract. It'll be covered by this disclaimer notice afterward. customers, I think, will be are hard pressed when it's put in writing that they have elected to ignore your services, your advice on what is and what should not be done. Okay, and if you can't pay for this disclaimer notice, which I think is $250, if you can't pay for this on your within your first 2 sales, I'll be real surprised. This is a document that should pay for itself very, very quickly. So we added, it evolved, and it gets updated on a regular basis. So let me tell you what else is in there, just so you understand it, and you'll appreciate, I'm sure, what's here. The undersigned, again, the customer, acknowledges not all of the above services are available or offered by the alarm company, but the services and equipment were brought to the undersigned's attention, and the undersigned declined such services or the opportunity to obtain the services from other security companies. I get a lot of calls on the residential all-in-one, sometimes commercial all-in-one also. Hey, we want to take out the guard provision. We don't offer guard service. And this has been my response every time. Well, let me ask you this. If your customer insisted on guard service and wanted it and was willing to pay for it, would you take the time to find a guard company and ask them, hey, will you respond to signals on this premises? Charge me $100 a month? No problem. I'll charge the customer $200 a month. Now every alarm company says, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So fine, leave it in. Also, this says you've offered, and your contract says you've offered additional protection. Well, you're offering it. You can price it, you can overprice it, you can outprice it. So you know they're never going to take it. Maybe you want $500 a month for a guard response. You're offering it. It's available. They don't want it from you. They can get it somewhere else. No problem. Alarm company has explained that it has no control over communication pathways such as telephone, VoIP, internet, radio, cellular. Not all communication pathways are available in all areas, and all communication pathways are subject to failing. That's in your contract also. But here it is again, being acknowledged that the customer acknowledges, understands it. If available, alarm company has discussed alternative communication pathways, and subscriber is responsible for selecting the available communication pathways. The security system will not communicate if the communication pathways are not working. That's in your all-in-one. It's repeated here. Alarm company is not responsible for the security or privacy of any wireless network system or router, and that wireless systems can be accessed by others, and it is the undersigned's responsibility to secure access to the system with passcodes and lockouts. Also in the alarm contract, but again repeated here. Alarm company has advised the undersigned that any permits required for the alarm system and monitoring, advised them of the alarm permits. And the undersigned acknowledges that it is the undersigned customer's responsibility to obtain and maintain all required permits and pay any false alarms or other fines related to the alarm system or service. Again, that's in your contract too. The smoke detectors and any other battery operated devices must be checked monthly and batteries replaced at least annually, and that it's the customer who's responsible to check and replace batteries. If you're selling a battery service, maybe a monthly inspection, even on a commercial, on a security system, fine, put it in your alarm contract and say we're inspecting this system, and inspection includes replacement of batteries. We're coming once a month, we're coming every 6 months, we're coming once a year, fine. So it'll override this in the contract. But if it's not in the contract, then usually it's not. This will apply. As a matter of fact, the contract does say that the all-in-one does say you're not responsible for batteries, and that is the customer's responsibility. Alarm company has explained all components, operation, and use of the alarm system to the undersigned's satisfaction. Well, that's important. How many customers will tell you, never explained the system, I didn't understand the system, it wasn't even working, you never got it working. You know it was working because you have signals, test signals at the central station. Well, here you have an acknowledgement. Now, that is not something that would be in the contract, by the way, because that's after installation. So you can't have that kind of acknowledgement in the contract, but you have it here in the in the disclaimer notice. That if audio or video devices are installed, the customer has been advised to independently ascertain that the audio or video devices are used lawfully. Alarm company has made no representations and has provided no advice regarding the use of audio or video devices. That's in your contract as well. We want it here again. We haven't had any problems with that, by the way. Here is where this form can be used on a takeover. Alarm company is taking over this system installed by anyone other than alarm company. So this is a takeover. There's a checkbox. Customer declines inspection of existing system installed by others and assumes all risks and conditions of the system and has only requested the alarm company to reprogram communication and monitor existing system with no repair obligation. Now you've taken over a system, you're only responsible for the communication of that system. That's it. Finally, alarm company has inspected the security and/or fire alarm system, reported non-operational components. And so you've inspected it and there's problems. Customer declines to authorize repairs and assumes all risk for existing system, or customer authorizes and agrees to pay for repairs, which shall be detailed in the sale or service agreement. You must have a service agreement. This is what the all-in-one should already be in place before you do this. There's a spot on there for deficiencies that you may note, which you normally would. Customer, you would put on here, customer doesn't want upstairs windows protected. So you would, if that's something that you would normally do, you're going to want to put that in there. Okay. Additional comments. Now, this disclaimer notice is not signed by the alarm company. It is signed by the customer only. Okay. That is your disclaimer notice. And I see there's some questions, so let me see whether they relate to disclaimer notice before I get to the other thing. I purchased contract updates last month, and I see none of the disclaimer illustrated on my screen. Well, then you didn't purchase the disclaimer notice. This is a separate form from your contract. And that's why you need to get it. And I believe you do have it, but if you don't have it, get it. This is the disclaimer notice. It is separate and distinct than the all-in-one agreements or alarm contracts. This does not call for your signature. So that's, if you don't have it, you need to get it. Let me see what else we got here. Is the disclaimer notice not part of the contract already? That's correct. It is not. It is a separate document. How does this apply to fire alarm systems that a professional engineer and plans are reviewed and approved by an AHJ so that the alarm company do not have any say on the job? Good point. I don't push the disclaimer notice when the alarm company is buying only the fire all-in-one, because I feel that it is going to be installed and approved by the AHJ, but the takeover part here would apply. So even with the fire alarm, the form can be useful on the takeover. of a system, and there's plenty of fire alarms that there's systems. Okay. How about that the customer received the operational manual? Yeah, listen, I'm sure there's plenty of well, it says here that it doesn't say they got the manual. Maybe that's a change to the disclaimer notice. Thanks for my next 2023 update. Whoever said that. When should this disclaimer notice be signed by the end user? At the time the contract was executed or at the end of the installation? I guess ideally, it's at the end, but you want to give it to them at the beginning because you want to try and use it as an additional tool to increase the sale. You want to try and encourage them to get more of the equipment, install more. So the answer is that probably, I think most people get it signed right up front. I know when I'm asked when it's electronic format, and the disclaimer notice is one of the forms that's presented right up front along with the contract, the form that's for disclosure and consent to electronic communications, the notice of cancellation in the sense of a residential customer. So it's all included in that one long document that they're clicking through, and the disclaimer notice would be in there at that point. I see that there is one item in here that does really acknowledge after the install, and that's that the system was working. I think I saw that in here that it was working to their satisfaction. So one item here would be after the fact. Customer wants to sign it after the fact, that's fine. Make it very clear to the customer, look, this is not a contract that they're signing. This is not costing them anything. There's no reason they shouldn't sign this. You really should get it signed. You want to do it at the end of the job, that's fine. I think most guys get it signed at the beginning of the job. What if the customer doesn't want to sign it? Well, again, it is not part of the contract that you have. Your contract with the customer is perfectly fine without this, so you don't need to get it signed. If a customer doesn't want to sign it, I think some red flags might go up, so you might want to be concerned about it for that reason. But that would be my response to that. A customer, I have not been asked that. What if a customer doesn't want to sign it? Because I gather it's not much of a problem getting the customer to acknowledge this. Again, they may want to cross something out, and if they do, you better find out why. If they're crossing out that you've explained something, or then you have to say to them, well, wait a minute, before you cross it out, I'm going to explain it to you right now. You need to do all these things when you enter into agreements and to provide security or fire alarm services to these customers. Okay. Okay. So those are all the questions on the disclaimer notice. Now let's move on to this concierge service. So we came up with the concierge service because a lot of, I know a lot of you think I did it because I want to get into the RMR business, and that's probably a good reason. But the concierge service is very valuable to the alarm companies that have signed up for it, and there's been a lot, and use it. I don't want you to sign up for it and not use it. I want you to sign up for it and use it. So unlike you, who signs a service plan agreement, hoping that you never hear from the customer over the life of the service plan, I want you to use it. So I've done things to encourage you to use it. Okay. So the concierge service is essentially a retainer agreement between you and Kirschenbaum & Kirschenbaum. We become your corporate counsel. We are your lawyers. You can think of us as your lawyers. We will not take a position that is adverse to you because we are your lawyers at this point. And I want you to treat us as house counsel, as if we're in the office right next to you, and you got questions, you got issues. yell it out. We'll be happy to answer it. So I take calls from concierge clients uh, uh, um, all the time. Now, I don't want to confuse this part. I know I'm well known for taking calls from everyone in the alarm industry on a very, all the time. I'm always available to the alarm industry, and that's because I treat the alarm industry, everyone in the alarm industry, as a single important client. My most important client is the alarm industry. I do plenty of other things, but I'm telling you how I treat the alarm clients. So if you are a company with $1 million of RMR, or you're a company with $100 of RMR, you're going to be treated the same. You're in the alarm industry. I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to assist you. I'm going to help you, and we're available for you. The difference is, of course, that these quick questions that I get frequently are quick questions. If I can't answer a question in a couple of seconds off the top of my head, then you're at some point going to run into a situation where you have to pay for that service. And so if you have to pay for my services, then it could get expensive. So one of the things that the concierge program does is it gives you a couple of items that are free each month, encouraging you to utilize the service. So what you get for $145 a month, or if you pay for the year in advance, you save 1 month, so it's $15.95. Priority access to the lawyers who specialize in this industry, obviously. It's mostly me when you call right now, but there's other lawyers in the office that do handle many calls from alarm companies dealing with issues ranging, employment issues very often come up, licensing issues come up, and these are handled by lawyers that are involved in these issues in the office. You get a half hour each month for subscriber contract changes, modifications, and negotiations. This is a most important feature of this program. That feature alone would cost you $250 a month. You're not paying for it. It's free. It's included in your $145 a month. You will get challenges to the alarm contract. You should not be handling them unless you have become very adept at these issues, and you would need to be very careful, and you'll find that you're making too many mistakes on your modifications. My track record for dealing with customer challenges and consummating a deal and leaving my client, the alarm company, comfortable that they're still protected is in the 90% bracket. Okay, almost every deal is successfully negotiated. Now I also have expanded. I will review very quickly a contract presented to the alarm company by the customer or the general contractor, and of course those contracts don't have any protection for the alarm company, and you're not getting any protection. And my advice on those is always the same. This contract can be used only for the installation, and this contract, make sure you get the GC and the owner named as an additional insured, and then you can go ahead and sign it if you really want the job. I prefer that you use your own fire all-in-one very often, or the commercial. I don't make that many exceptions. In the fire, it's much more prevalent. Okay, you get a collection letter once a month. Hopefully, it's not me writing it to you, but you get a collection letter every month to your customer. That's free. You get 10% off your contract orders, and you get 10% off our legal fees, not our collection fees, however. That we get a third when we collect. So you have that there's no discount on. And you get an annual consultation. It's really, you get as much consultation as you want, that you're not charged for. We try and push it. For those that don't call or ask for any time, we reach out to you and say, hey, we want to talk to you, and we're not charging you for it. Okay. So these other things, that we become your corporate counsel. We consider you a retainer client. We will not take an adverse position against you. Some of you have access to my cell phone, but concierge clients will be giving the cell phone, so I'm available all the time. And we'll be more readily available to take a call that's asking for a referral to another professional that we have closer ties to than simply being listed on the alarm exchange. Okay. That's the lawyer concierge service. It's a good program. It has become popular. We do have a lot of clients in it at this point. I haven't gotten to the point where I have to say enough, but we'll probably very soon. I don't know how many more I can have in the program. So I think we have. By the way, you might be interested in this. The retention rate is very high. I can't give you a statistic, but it's very, very high. We rarely lose a concierge client after the 6-month commitment, after the year that they've paid for. So we've been doing this now for, I think, 3 years, 2-3 years, well, maybe 3 years, the concierge program. So the clients that have signed up for it, they're still there. And very few clients have dropped off, and we've had a bunch of clients, some clients drop off and they come back, which is interesting. So anyway, I urge you all, anyone on, you guys that are on this webinar, or listen to it afterwards, I suggest that you can give it a great deal of thought. When we sell the contracts now, I do put in there usually in a comment, I recommend you join the concierge program. You're going to have questions on these contracts, and you're best getting advice on how to deal with the issues that come up. And the concierge program is the best way to do that. Okay, where do you stand when we have an issue with a central station? Well, the central station is very simple. I get calls on central station issues frequently. If you are negotiating with a new central station, or your existing central station is now asking for a new dealer agreement, my advice on this is very consistent. Buy the rider to the central station dealer agreement. It's on our form, one of the forms that we offer. I think it's a couple of $100. I don't remember what the cost of it is. It might be $500-600, but whatever it is, it's a lot less than me poring over that central station dealer agreement and advising you and then trying to help you negotiate it. There you're looking at 3-4 hours of time, $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 to negotiate your central station agreement. No, you don't need it. You're not going to get them to move very much. The central station rider that we provide has about 10 or 12 items that we ask the central station to agree to. And if they don't agree to it, that's fine. You just need to know that, because when you get that central station dealer agreement, you're not going to maybe you're not going to read it, maybe you're not going to understand it, maybe it's going to be difficult to hone in on what's important for you to complain about. But the rider hits every point that you need in that agreement. It simply is. This is your challenge to the dealer agreement. Now, the dealer agreements, by the way, and I've written them, and so I know what's in them. They're written for the central station. They're not written for you, the dealer. And some central stations have more provisions that are not favorable to you than others. but there are, and not every deal that you make with a central station is going to be the same. Some central stations do have a right to demand you stay with them for 5 years. They do have a right that you agree to put all of your monitoring into their station and not go anywhere else. They do have the right to tell you you have to pay for this or pay for that. They have a right. Why do they have a right in that particular deal? Well, maybe they've advanced you $100,000 to come into their station. Whether you're putting them in one at a time or you're switching in a couple of thousand right off the bat, they're giving you something. Maybe they've induced you to come over because they've reduced their price. Maybe they say to you, here, you see our published price is $6 a month. You're getting it for $2 a month. But in order for you to get it for $2 a month, this is what we want. Okay. So when you get the rider and it says alarm company can come and go as they please, alarm company is not committed to putting all accounts in this central station. Well, when the central station says no, that has to come out, and you might say, okay, I understand that because you're giving me consideration to take that out. So, but on a more typical relationship with the central station, where you're coming in and they're telling you, okay, we want $4 a month for monitoring. That's what we get, or we advertise $250 a month. That's what we get. You're going to pay it. End the story. You're going to pay $10 or $15 for every customer we set up because we're involved in the setup process. Or maybe they don't charge for that. They don't charge anybody for that. And so in other words, they're not giving you anything really other than treating you fairly as a regular customer. So if that's the case, why shouldn't you be allowed to come and go as you please? They might. I guess they could have arguments. Listen, you're transferring 10,000 accounts in, and they're making a commitment. They're hiring more help. They're getting more space in order to monitor your people. That is really highly unlikely, that scenario. But under those circumstances, you'll understand why they're saying no to something that's in the rider. So the rider does two things. One, it will make changes to the central station contract, and if it doesn't, you'll know what you're agreeing to. You won't be coming to me later and going, I didn't really get it, I didn't understand it, I didn't, whatever. You might come back and say, I knew it, I didn't like it then, I don't like it now, what can I do about it? My answer is going to be nothing. So that's what the rider's for. So you're getting ready to deal with a central station, get the rider. All the legitimate central stations are familiar with the rider. They all know. They're not going to offer it to you. You have to come to them with it. Okay. Now a lot of the stuff they may say to you, hey, it's already in our agreement. Don't worry. This dealer agreement says you can come and go as you please, no problem. So then your answer to them is, well, then I guess you don't mind leaving this in the rider. It's here. It doesn't change the contract in any way. So I guess we're okay with it, right? No reason to cross it out. It better be all right because you don't want to hunt in the agreement for the small print and find out where it is. You want it right here. It's an important issue to you, and you want it right here. Okay. The dealer agreement has some things that they may not like, and it may have some things that you don't like. So, for example, one of the things in there, it says Central Station agrees it's going to test every system when it's put in zone by zone with you. Well, you may say, I don't want to do that as a dealer. I'm switching 500 accounts over. I'm not going to be doing that. And so fine, take it out. But now we understand they haven't tested it. So later on, when signals start coming in and they can't identify zones, you'll know why, because you didn't check it, you didn't test it. So that's the answer. Okay. I think the Central Station rider is $600. The disclaimer notice, by the way, is a form that is $250, the same price it was when I created it 15 or 20 years ago. I want you to use the disclaimer notice. If you don't have it, get it, okay? Has Central Station Rider been updated in the past 18 months? I don't know. It might have been. We might have redesigned it. I think we redesigned it. Let's see. It's got a copyright. No, it has not been upgraded since April 2019. Okay, so the latest form that I'm looking at here is 2019, and the only thing I can see is that it did have one typo in it that has to be changed. This to the, which I just noticed as I was reading it here. But other than that, no, if you have it from 18 months ago, you're good to go. Okay, no more questions. Last chance. Okay, I want to thank everybody for attending. I'm glad we were able to cut this a little bit short from an hour, and you guys can get on with your day. And I want to thank everybody for coming. And we do have some more items on, webinars on next week. And we're still looking to schedule some webinars. So if any of you on here are looking to do a webinar, let us know. We'll hook you up. We'll set it up, and we'll publicize it, and you'll probably get some business from it. Okay. So thanks everybody, and see you next time. Bye-bye.